Faces, go ahead.
Ordinance Committee meeting, Wednesday.
May 8th, and we are in the Public Safety Building classroom. Present are Counselor Seither. Myself. Can we have an approval of minutes from April 10th? I told you. All right, sorry about that. Could I have approval of minutes from April 10th?
So move.
Second.
All in favor? That's 3. Public comment? No public comment, anyone on, we don't know if anyone's online, do
We
we?
have one, but their hand's not raised.
Okay. So Ms. Spear, if you could do site layout and architecture.
All right, great, thank you. So this is the last of the ordinance consolidation project. And this is site utilization and layout and architecture and a little bit of signage. But these sections will conclude the commercial design standards repealing and the site plan ordinance having everything in one place. And the reason there is no presentation tonight is if you went through it, there's not a lot of changes proposed. Just to remind you, the purple is from the chapter 405 site plan review, and that's what we're putting everything into. And the green is what was proposed through the long range planning committee. And then the blue is commercial design standards. So this is really an exercise of consolidation. For the first section, for site utilization and layout, the primary changes include putting some applicability standards in where this actually applies. It doesn't apply to RF, R2, R3, those districts. It doesn't apply to village residential districts because they have their own site layout standards. It also doesn't apply to light industrial or industrial zoned areas. So that's been clarified.
Where does it say that, the scope that you just mentioned?
The applicability on page 1
Okay.
in the green.
Page 1 in the
Okay.
green. Yeah.
Right.
So that's new language, just to clarify. The only other thing really is besides formatting, you'll find in this section is there's been a reduction. We have a 25-foot drive aisle requirement, and every site plan asks for a waiver to do a 24-foot drive aisle. So we've included that as a change.
Why does
Repeat that
that
again?
happen?
So it's a.
Yeah, explain to him what it is and then.
Parking lot is, the current requirement is 25 feet wide. And everybody does 24 feet. That's the standard, and it's just never been updated. So every
okay.
site plan includes a waiver for that 1 foot.
So why bother waivering?
Exactly.
Right.
So it's one of those things, if you see a waiver more than 4 or 5 times and it's really no consequence,
Yeah.
we'll try to clean it up. So that one's been included. And that is on page. At the top of page 9. So 90-degree perpendicular parking requires 25, so that'll go to 24. The only other thing that I think has really changed in this section is requiring sidewalks on both sides.
Yeah,
That was sort of a suggestion before, and in lieu of the survey and the changes that are happening within the town, we've added language. It's on page 12,
Mhm.
kind of in the middle. So public sidewalks should be wherever possible is what it says now, and so we're changing that
R2B.
to R2 and on both sides of the street.
good.
So some people may say that, is this really something, number one, that residents want, or number two, will truly be an improvement? Or would it be something that makes the town and the area look less natural and less environmentally friendly, but better for scooters and walkers and stuff? So, yeah, or you lose trees and you get mailboxes, that kind of stuff.
Well, again, this doesn't apply to those residential districts, so
Okay.
this is really your Route 1.
Okay,
Where you already have the path where people are walking.
Yeah.
And the great thing about making this apply, in my CIP budget this year, I'm asking for money to do a matching grant for the complete streets.
Yep.
So we get some consistency. So we actually have this toolbox that says this is how you build the sidewalk on these sections. So this is really that backup for requiring that. And the goal is to get things that match. Even just this section of Route 1, the sidewalks are used and great, but they don't match necessarily.
So one thing I suggest, I know I remember going through a complete streets presentation at one time.
Uh-huh.
It's been a while since we did that. Maybe it's an idea if we ever, get a big hole in an agenda on some space. It might be worthwhile to revisit that. And maybe they do this in committee, maybe they do it in long range, but it's been a while since we talked about that. Complete streets. I don't really know what it means. I can't recite it, but I get the general idea that, we want sidewalks and we want to be safe.
We want to accommodate vehicles, bicycles, people walking, all those things, right?
And one of the interesting things is in North and West Scarborough, on my side of the world, I get people saying to me all the time, God, I wish we had sidewalks. Of course, I have to explain to them that I wish that too, but how expensive they are to do. But it is something, gee, this table, long term. But long term, I think it's great for the town to be looking at, the safety of pedestrians on all sorts of streets in Scarborough, because I do see more people biking and walking,
Mhm.
even on 114, which
Right.
scares me, but yeah.
Well, and
I
it would-
think, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it provides that opportunity for the connections too, because working on the open space plan, all the things that
Yes,
we're all working on.
right.
sort of need that connection, and sidewalks really connect a lot of different things.
I was gonna say, I think this is super responsive to feedback that we've gotten
Yep.
from various sources, including the survey. And so I would definitely be in support of this, but Counselor Hamel, that's not where I thought you were gonna go with your comment. I thought
Yeah.
you were.
That is a problem. You don't really know where this guy's gonna go.
I thought you were gonna bring up the fact that more sidewalks is more maintenance.
Yes,
and-
I was getting there.
All right,
You-
so I'll
but
tee
good
that
one.
up for you.
You saw that flicker in my eye and you knew that was coming. Good for
And
you.
so I will acknowledge that I'm in support of more sidewalks, also knowing that that's something we're gonna have to plan for.
Yes.
As we move forward as a community, that
Right.
if we're gonna really make walkability a priority, that comes with an expense.
Well said. And the other thing I would say, just before that, so then does that mean that residents are responsible for shoveling their
In Portland,
walks
they
in their
are.
houses?
Well, this
Portland,
would
man.
be- These are
I know.
sidewalks in our town right away, and
Yeah.
currently our public works department. would
Okay.
be in charge.
All right.
And it's not residential, remember, this is for commercial.
This is your commercial
So
design.
Got it, got it, got
Yeah,
it. Okay.
Payne Road.
So we'll
the
start with
Heights
them.
Parkway, the Downs,
Right.
Route 1.
Yeah, we know each other too well. When you start anticipating somebody else's. I see you coming from way off.
Come on, we're having too much fun. Let's be serious.
No presentations ever again. So, that is really the bulk of the changes.
Yeah.
In the site layout.
Can I ask, I'm sorry.
There's
I just-
only one other thing.
Autumn?
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, can I ask something? Because it's on page 13 and just jumped out at me. And I wanted to ask about alternative transportation, looking down the line. Because obviously when we make plans, it's not just for today, it's not just for a year from now, it's for 10 years from now, 15 years from now, whatever. So are all the commercial outfits supposed to have some sort of provisions for that at some point, even if it's not on like a bus lane now? Because there may be bus lanes in the future,
Right.
or,
This is sort of a tricky one. This exists now, and as far as we've been able to go, I think really is bike racks. That's what we require.
okay,
There is a bus stop in the Downs and along routes, it definitely comes up in conversation. What I've seen since I've been here, really small little pieces, this would probably apply more to a larger development.
yes, okay,
So
okay,
this language allows us to at least have
Okay,
that conversation.
okay. Thank you.
What I was gonna mention, there's a highlighted language for a site plan waiver. And this one, it has to do about minimum parking spaces. Now, long range planning committee, the next thing that we're looking at is parking in
Mhm.
town. Right now, when a site plan comes through, they can ask for a waiver for parking, a reduction in parking. If they can show that there's a landscape area they can provide for parking, which is a bit strange because they also get credit for that landscape area for landscaping. Or that you can go to the Board of Appeals and request, but the Board of Appeals doesn't really dabble in site plan work.
Right.
They are more in uses and special exceptions. So this is an area, I've just highlighted it because I've written it so that it's possible maybe the planning board could give waivers for parking within certain parameters. And we don't have to change it now. I just sort of wanted to highlight it that maybe once we go through the parking requirements, this is something that we move the authority from the zoning board of appeals to planning board and take away that landscape stipulation. So maybe if you can prove up that you have a use, and this really will go into consideration, we have shared parking and things of that nature. So it's just something I just wanted to point out that planning for in the future.
So, so this means that do you have to have a landscaped area that's set aside for future parking if necessary in future?
Right.
Okay,
And then the way it works is we get complaints about parking or whatnot, the code enforcement can go out and say, okay, it's time for you to build the parking.
gotcha. Okay,
That's the only waiver we have built in for parking reduction right now. So, but that's it on that one. And then the next one is the architectural design standards. Again, this one's really minimal changes. This one, we started out with the long range planning committee, really gonna do some things. And then it sort of became apparent that we could not do town-wide things. Everybody has a different idea of what certain things look like in certain areas. We went on a field trip last summer. It was really great. But what we've come up with is this base set of architecture standards and a reserved section for special areas of town we'd like to do as projects. And so again, the purpose and the applicability has been laid out. This does not apply to single family. It only applies to commercial, multifamily, and mixed use structures. And it does not apply to light industrial or industrial. So I was happy to have, it gives us a lot of clarity when we're putting regulations on projects. The only other thing that changed, we added definitions. We added the CPD zoning to, there's a section where flat roofs are allowed and things, and they were not in that because they didn't exist when it was written. So we added that in. And then you can see that there's not a lot, just a lot of consolidation and cleanup. And then at the end, when you get to page 12, you see there's reserved, additional requirements, Village, Eight Corners, Oak Hill, Dunston, North Scarborough, Pine Point. And we could add any number of areas, but these would really be special area or neighborhood or village plans where we would go in and say, okay, Oak Hill, you're using, you know, I'm being extreme, but you're using brown shingles and cementitious siding and gray and oval windows, you know, and that's what Oak Hill has as special requirements. And so that would allow us to really look at the different areas of town individually. So those are placeholders.
So my guess is Higgins Beach already has.
yes,
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the Higgins Beach Character District, so it's not included in this section. But-
I'm recalling reference to the New England vernacular.
yeah, I was just
I
gonna
love that
ask
quote.
about that.
I love
Is
that
that
quote.
word?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it now says, the purpose of architectural design standards is to encourage design which draws its inspiration from historical and contemporary New England examples. So we spent a lot of time on that.
And what,
Or
do-
New England.
and what does that mean?
It means whatever you would like it to mean.
I was gonna
So Garden
say,
State
And
dictates.
and the great thing is, it means a very broad brush.
right,
Because these are our general basic standards, like you need to use good quality
Oh, right.
materials, good
you
quality
can't just
roofing
throw up
materials.
any goofy thing.
And
yeah.
When we really get into the specifics of these special districts, then that becomes, you know, maybe Dunston is more traditional looking and the CPD is more contemporary. That's where you get that. So we tried to make it a little bit more broad brush.
So it gives some flexibility to the planning board.
So that is the architectural. The only thing that happened with sign design standards, and I didn't, I just included it on the memo. The sign design standards, there's a lot of random things that exist in the commercial design centers now, but signs are covered in our zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
So the only thing that we are proposing to add to the zoning ordinance is a waiver. So that any increases to maximum sign sizes can be approved by the planning board in conjunction with site plan approval, and those are for your big boxes.
Yes.
Big, your Hannafords and Costco's, and Shaw's, that kind of thing. So they're limited on the sign size now, but a
Okay.
waiver would be appropriate with their site plan. So that is it. That is the last of the consolidation project.
I have to say, I've sat through quite a bit of this on long range
both
planning,
sides.
so it's like. Nihil, Noam Nihil, Solon, nothing new under the sun. But anyway, looking at my fellow,
I went through and read all of the architectural things that are way out of my scope in terms of what I would even know to plan for. I have a maybe silly question. So under large scale buildings shall provide at least two of the following. There, some of those things I don't know what they
page is that on?
9. Kiosk area,
Mhm.
and then things like patio seating or pedestrian areas with benches,
Mhm.
like. So just a general question, like. If Hannaford puts benches out in front of their building, does that qualify? Or do they have to have a set number of benches?
That would qualify. The
Okay.
planning board may want a set number, but this gives them the
The
requirement
flexibility
to
to do
say, we need you to address a section to sit out. And I honestly don't know what kiosk area
Kiosk
means.
area.
either.
Okay.
Let's just strike that.
That was the one.
It's like
I
a
just-
place where you
I
sell
clocked,
tickets or.
my eye was, I'll be honest, my eye was drawn to clock tower because I thought if a lot of businesses started offering up clock towers, that would give a certain aesthetic to parts of town. But then I realized like, well, I actually don't know what is intended for a kiosk area.
Kiosks are usually
Feels-
something where you're selling something
little
from, like a
selling-
ticket booth type
Yeah.
thing.
So I
I
don't
don't know.
know if that's a great idea. So that's a great.
Yeah,
great
good
structure.
There you
catch.
go. And I got
Clock tower, that's another interesting one
That would be a
because,
good
yeah, pretty soon people aren't gonna be able to read clocks. It's all gonna be digital. They aren't gonna know what a clock face even looks like.
I have more hopes for us than that.
too.
It's like, oh boy. Anyway. Anything, Dawn?
No, nothing further. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. You know, as some stuff comes up, I think would just be worth another look at it, but it makes. a lot of
Oh, yeah.
sense And seems pretty much
So
boilerplate.
you ready for it to go to
So-
council?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Someone wanna make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank you. I'm not in a big hurry to put it on the agenda. It needs to go after landscape and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll probably see it in June,
In what?
end of June, maybe.
Oh. I was gonna say, what, when? Future agenda items. We're dealing with cannabis now at the council level. You're gonna have some more, do you have more that's coming out of,
I have environmental standards that will come back after the developer forum that we're having on the 23rd, maybe in June.
okay,
The council has a workshop on short-term rentals. June
Oh, right.
5th,
Yes.
So maybe June or July, short-term rentals.
yep,
We also received that request to revisit light industrial.
Yes, right, from,
So I didn't know if you wanted to see that here or that in long range first.
long range is my advice on that one. Cause again, I was on long range when that first came through, when Beechridge
Yep.
Speedway closed, and that got quite a thorough reading, so I let's put it back there, because there's some new faces on long
Well,
range.
we
and-
talked about it at long range when I first came to, the end of 2022, so we revisited the whole thing.
It's been looked at a few times.
The only thing I'd say about this, and this came up, this was brought up in a public comment in our last town council meeting by Denise Hamilton and other residents that who live out there up to Rod Road and the general vicinity. You know, since some work has started there, they've raised questions about water quality and so forth. So it did seem to me that it was a reasonable request, and I know though we may have decided on it previously, it seemed like a fair question to revisit.
Yeah, so let's put it
There
through
have been
long
some
range.
changes, sure.
Mhm. And I'm trying to think if I've heard of anything else. And we're gonna do, but that's at council, I can't even think the Running Hill Road and those different areas, right? The master planning, that's gonna come right to council. I'm looking-
That was a.
Yeah, I think that's coming out of the budget. That's one of the items that.
That's correct,
part of
okay,
the
yep,
finance
okay.
committee to confer.
okay,
Just on the matter of cannabis, just to report leadership at this afternoon.
Okay.
There would be a 90-minute workshop at your next meeting.
Yeah.
On 15. That will be intended and instructed and intended to cover the territory that's currently in front of you, which is to kind of enhance the enforcement components. But we're also very intentionally want the council to give some direction regarding land use.
Yeah.
Leadership's made it clear to the staff that they'd like things to move forward to council in June, so we need ideally we'd like to get a consensus position from council.
and I know I talked to a constituent today, and they brought up again the zoning, and there was transfer of property that I just like to look at that again. Over at Snow Canning, where the zoning lines are, because to me, it's gotten kind of unclear, so if we could discuss that.
Yeah, I guess I need to fill in on it.
Yeah, I'll fill you in.
I can't think of anything else out of leadership that would come to ordinance for a future agenda. Not off the top of my head.
One thing that did occur though, this past week, there's been a lot of email chatter on this from, it's that season again, when we talk about special amusement permits.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting calls.
So, yeah, it's not a new issue. We do this every year. And, however, people have suggested maybe it's time for us to take a look at the ordinance and consider revisiting it. This is mainly related to noise, the noise aspects of the good neighbor ordinance, which are, if you can believe it, actually a little easier to determine, there's a, yeah,
Right.
you have a decibel meter or whatever the heck it is, but so it seemed like a reasonable thing. And it may be purely an ad hoc issue where we have to review the actual permits and compare them to what we've done in the past, but it does seem to me that we're possibly at a different place with that.
Well, I think, yeah, and I would say it's not gonna get on an ordinance agenda in time to deal with the summer per se. I think what we need to do is maybe start keeping track of what's going on,
Yeah.
what we're getting for.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it. I know other folks have gotten a lot more email traffic on it than I have, but we've done this now 2 or 3 times, and we've had various approaches to this. I know when Councilor Paul Johnson was here, Councilor Ken Johnson and I was here, and we made visits, and we were able to get some results, but it seems like we're
Back at
it's
it again.
deja vu all over again, so.
No,
That's
you're right.
Not the right analogy, but
To that point, all the special movement permits will be on your agenda for.
Yes.
consideration at your next meeting.
That's why I figured we were getting calls. Cause the butters notices must have gone out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
so moved.
second.